All right, welcome back. Quick little news of the day here for you guys. I apologize. Yesterday in my video, I said I was going to be posting another one shortly after that. However, I didn't end up having time. So for anyone who's expecting a video, I apologize. But I do now have all of the information and all of the stuff and the changes that have happened since I posted my last video, which immediately as I posted my video is when OG announced their new roster. So just my luck. I think it's kind of funny because I don't even think I would have had space on my board to have OG's new roster on there. I would have found a way, but regardless, we're going over a bunch of huge roster changes. I've laid it out a little bit differently just because there's a lot going on here. So I'm going to start off in the top half looking at some new rosters, and then I'm going to make my way to the news on the bottom of the board here. So starting off, like I had already mentioned earlier on, there's a new roster for OG. Right when I was making my video, I had actually included in my video that they had announced that Misha was going to be their coach, so their captain, I mean. So we knew that he was going to be one of the players on the team. It was a matter of which position. I think it was pretty assumed that he was going to be pos 5, as that's his typical position, and it is also a typical position for a captain to play. And we've got the confirmation, but before we get into it, looking at their old roster now, who has mostly not joined any new teams, any of the members, because they're all just either retired now or on break. The only one of which who has actually joined a new team is Sumail, and he is now on Team Secret. They have Thompson and No Tail, who are both taking a break for the season. Seb, who has gone into retirement, and Saksa, who has yet to find himself on a team yet. I'm hoping he finds himself on a team. However, slots are filling up. I don't think there's any more place in the upper division of the Western European division, so it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a little unfortunate if he ends up in the lower division. Maybe he ends up on a lower division team that gets bumped up to the upper division by finishing top 2. Maybe he sits out for a season and sees if there's any movement going on in any of the teams that maybe didn't perform as well in the first tour. It's entirely possible that he just sits out for a couple of months, as there's bound to be some shakeups again after the first tour. So looking at the new roster now, a very, very young and fresh roster here. That one that I am sure that No-Tail is going to try and hone his craft on a little bit. Of course, we've heard that No-Tail is going to be their team mentor. It's unclear whether or not that means that he's going to be actively coaching them, because as of right now, they don't actually have a coach, as Misha was their old head coach, and Sakska has left. So maybe No-Tail is considering himself a coach and a mentor at the same time, but as of right now, there's nothing. So looking at this roster now, we have Yurigi coming in from Team Unique, a team that did quite okay for themselves in the Eastern European region. We have BSM, aka Hansha, who is coming in from Team Creepwave. He seems to be all the rage right now. Everyone's freaking out about this new kid. OG has been known for picking up some pretty unknown talent from the scene that people aren't really looking at. This is a player that has been in the DBC before. Even last season, he was on Team Creepwave in the lower division. They had a pretty solid season. He and his teammate ATF, both coming from Creepwave. We have Taiga coming in from Team Liquid, which is another familiar face. I'm glad that Taiga was able to find himself on a tier 1 team. I'm really, really fortunate to see him in the upper division, as he is still one of the best in the region at his role. And then finally, we have Misha, who the only remaining member technically, although being moved from coach to position 5 now. So yeah, this is going to be a very, very weird season for OG. I think this is going to be a little weird for any fans of OG, any fans of specific players on OG, like No-Tail, like Seb, like Thompson, these very, very big personality players that have a lot of personality in the game, I should say, with the whole tipping and the whole way that OG kind of changed the game in the sense of BM. So yeah, this is going to be a fun season. I'm definitely going to be watching OG pretty closely. This is definitely not a team that I think they're expecting to do super, super well off the start. And I'm sure they're okay with that, because even the regular OG roster didn't make either of the majors this year. So they underperformed a little bit as well. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit different. I see this the same way as the new Fnatic roster. The new TNC roster. But yeah, interesting news. And now jumping over quickly to CIS for Bait's new roster. Of course, a couple weeks ago, I had covered that Bait had a new roster. However, it was not considered a permanent roster that they were going to be going into the Dota 2 Champions League with. And they've kind of stuck a little bit with that roster. And so this is the one that I've got on the old one here, but they have made some slight tweaks to it. So starting off with the old one that they had announced back on November 9th, they had Violet and Dendi playing position 1 and 2. Those two have stayed on the team. The ones that have not are actually BB3PX and BRZ. They have moved on. They have not found themselves a new team to this point, from what I know. And Gatsy, who is still finding himself on this team to the day. So to fill in those position 3, position 4 roles, they've gone ahead and picked up Pijon and Laguna. Two players that I do not recognize. I don't believe they were in the DPC last season. So again, Bait picking up some fresh blood from the scene. Hopefully it ends up working out for them. Maybe they strike gold and they have themselves a better season this time around. I've talked about numerous times how mediocre Bait has been ever since they've became an organization. And it'd be really, really nice to see them do well. I mean, anything better than their first season last year where they actually finished bottom 2 in the lower division. Just please let them stay in the upper division this time around. I'd really love to see them do well. But yeah, this is gonna be one to watch for, so I'm excited. Now moving to North America with some new rosters. We of course have a new roster coming up from Black and Yellow, which is completely pretty much changed. There's 3 new members coming in for them. They've got Yamson and SK coming in from D2 Hustlers, who did very well for themselves in the last season. They finished first place in the lower division. So these players were going to be bound for the upper division regardless of whether or not they stayed on D2 Hustlers or not. But Black and Yellow, again, another team in the top division. So I'm sure they're okay with that. They have Zero and Jube, who are staying from their last team. And then finally, they had Flea, who has joined 2Base, another team in that upper division. So he was bound for the upper division one way or another. So they've lost a few members. Who did they go ahead and replace them with? Well, they've kind of pulled some players from a little bit of everywhere. Starting off with Rises coming from Ego Boys down in the South American lower division. So this is a player that I don't think a lot of people may be as familiar with unless you're very much following the South American region. He's a player that did pretty okay. They had an okay season, Ego Boys. I wouldn't say that they were one of the best teams in South America by any stretch of the means. But regardless, they also pick up Shaggy from Arkosh, who was also playing as Canis Vulpus, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, Arkosh was playing under a bunch of nicknames for gimmicky reasons. But regardless, I think Shaggy had a very good year. Arkosh had a very good season in the second one. They are now going to be in the upper division. I can't wrap my head around the fact that Slacks owns a team that is going to be in North America's upper division that either says something incredibly wrong about North America or something incredibly good about Slacks. And I don't know which one I want to give into. Next up, we have Dunha coming in from Balrogs, and this is a team that I had not heard of whatsoever. I believe this is a team from South America, but it was not one that took place in the DPC. He was actually only on this team for a couple weeks near the start of November, and he's already left it and joined this new team, assuming he left it simply because he got a better offer with Black and Yellow. I know that North America and South America are very close together when it comes to region, and when it comes to pubbing, a lot of South American players queue on the North American servers. So it's possible that they're just really familiar with this player from just queuing him with him in pubs and have a good feeling about him. So we'll see if this pickup ends up working out for them, as they had a pretty okay season last season, Black and Yellow. I'm sure they'd want to do a little bit better. Of course, North America is one of the regions that only has 2 slots for every major. So it's going to be tough for them to make it to that top 2, especially with teams like Quincy Crew, Undying, and Evil Geniuses. I think if they can manage to get themselves off to a quick start, maybe Evil Geniuses and Quincy Crew have slow starts due to the fact that they've just gone through some roster changes and they've got some players that haven't played in quite a long time. I think they can maybe make a stretch for that top 2 finish. And finally, looking at the last roster that was completed over the past 24 hours, again in North America, and that is 4Zoomers. This is the team that I was very much into. I was very much following. I was really sad to see that a whole bunch of them left. In fact, I think the whole team actually dissolved at a certain point. However, 2 of them have come back, those 2 being Gunner and Husky. Looking now at their old roster, they of course had Sammy Boy, who has also at this point joined D2 Hustlers. So if you look here at Black and Yellow and 4Zoomers, both of their old position 1s have joined D2 Hustlers. It's unclear who of those 2 players is actually going to be their carry player for D2 Hustlers. I guess we'll have to see when they announce it, or when they just start playing. They had Brax, who has now joined Team, and they had Eixn, who has yet to find himself on a new team to this point. He left 4Zoomers quite a long time ago. It's unclear whether or not he's going to be taking a break at this point. I know North America is one of the more open regions when it comes to last-minute changes, so maybe he's just waiting to see what he can get. But as of right now, Eixn is not on a team. And like I mentioned, Husky, one of the returning members for 4Zoomers. So looking at their new roster now, some of which they had played with in the newest little tournament that there was going on for BTS. Costabile was one that was playing with them for a while. He's officially on the roster. Of course, he was the carry player for SG Esports, the team from South America attending TI, the one of the 3 teams from South America attending TI. He had a pretty good tournament. I was pretty confident in him. I really liked his play with 4DR. I thought they were the best members on SG Esports during TI10. They were really, really good at coming back in games and making games really difficult for some of these top teams. And so it's exciting to see him now in the North American upper division, seeing if maybe he can branch out a little bit more. We have Moo and Z-Freak coming in from Sad Boys, who have also been renamed now to Bumblebees, which is, of course, the team that has now been sold to a bunch of 4K players. I've already mentioned my thoughts on that. That's still up for discussion about what needs to change. I'm not trying to put blame on the players in any way. I think this is more just a flaw of the system, but we'll have to see how that goes. But regardless, these guys are laning partners from a previous team that didn't exactly have the best season. They had a pretty miserable one, actually, in the North American Upper Division. So we'll have to see how it goes for them on this new team here. So yeah, quite a few shakeups, mainly going on in NA. Of course, NA being known for making last-minute decisions. But again, OG also did that, so... And now, finally, looking at some of the non-roster change news, but still some players moving around. Starting off with FY, who everyone was talking about as time was winding down to the first roster lock, which took place yesterday. And FY still hadn't found himself on a team. Of course, with Elephant dissolving that roster and not partaking in the DPC anymore, we didn't know where he was going to go. And he's basically come out and announced that he's going to be taking this tour off. It's unclear whether or not it's going to be the entire season or if it's just going to be the first few months. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, he could wait until the end of the first tour and maybe find an opening then, because teams are inevitably going to make changes after the first tour. So yeah, it's good to see him take a break. Again, this is one of the all-time greatest players who's been competing for such a long time at the highest level, and whether or not it was due to circumstance or the fact that he actually chose to take a break, I'm sure any team that wanted FY would have taken him. I mean, it's FY, but he's going to be taking a break one way or another. So best of luck to him. Hopefully it works out, and hopefully he comes back fresh and better than ever. Next up, looking at Team Bald Reborn, of course, Gork Stack in the Western European lower division. They have picked up a new position 5 player, and that is going to be Eixn. I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize. But they've gone ahead and picked up a new Pause 5 for them for this upcoming season. I'm sure they're hoping to have a little bit of a better time this time around. Maybe push for that top 2 finish, make it to that upper division. However, I don't know if they're going to make it there. There's some pretty competitive teams in that lower division of Western Europe. It is still a very strong region, whether you're in the upper division or not. If you're in the upper division, you're pretty dead too. I've mentioned before, those top 6 teams in Western Europe are very, very, very tightly knit. It's gonna be tough. So best of luck to them. Hopefully this works out. And the last little bit of news now coming out from North America, and that is that Team DogChamp, not to be confused with Team PuckChamp in CIS, have gone ahead and picked up StoneBank for their new roster. So yeah, I'm sure they're hoping to have a little bit of a better time this time around. Again, a lower division team looking to crack into that upper division. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been News of the Day. I'm actually going to be doing a video later tonight going over my free agent board that I did last week. I've gone ahead and crossed off all the teams that have made changes, all the players that are no longer available. And we're going to have a look at the board now 1 week later. And then I think I'm going to do it again in a week from now as well, since there's going to be another roster lock happening this Sunday once again. This time to actually finalize the teams, because the first one that happened yesterday was just that teams need to have at least 4 members. That didn't mean that they needed to have all 5. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.